social media can be an odd thing, and once in a while you happen upon something and maybe have a conversation. Kylie Hoover and I connected online. Her and her husband, Harrison, around Meadows. They live in a way that less and less younger people have hands-on access with. The average age of a farmer is somewhere in the mid-60s. You know, it's a difficult life to choose for yourself, and I admired that. That you know, there was a time where we all were farmers. As time's gone on, we've seen this big curtain drop between our farmers and consumers. I wanted to have a conversation with a smaller farm, or a family farm, operated by young people. You know, it's not set up in any easy capacity, and how often do you hear this side of the story? It's an important one. My great uncle started the family farm movement during the farming crisis in the 80s. I've been working with horses now for about 6 years. And, you know, if you ain't been around livestock much, you don't really know what that world is like. You know, it's a lifestyle rather than a job. Which maybe is kind of old hat to say, but I hope anyone who listens to this can take something out of it that helps them move forward in a more conscious way of how they consume food and who they support and where they get it from. And go to a farmer's market, go to your community events wherever you live, and figure out who around you is hard to see from the road.
My name's Harrison Hoover, and this is my wife.
I'm Kylie Hoover.
We live in Harrison Valley, Potter County, Pennsylvania. It's a rather rural area in the mountainous region of Pennsylvania, right above the PA Wilds.
This is my grandparents' property. We got married in 2020. Nothing was really open at the time, so we worked on the farm for my grandparents for an entire summer. Started living in this place. It's just kind of a ranch hand's little cabin at the bottom of the hill. Finished doing school on the computer, and both of us kind of deviated from what we went to college for and found a love for the things that we have always loved.
It's a very small town. I think there's only 500 or 600 people that are residents of the area. There's not a whole lot to do other than enjoy the beauty that we have here available to us. We tend to do a lot of stuff in New York.
Yeah.
That's where most of the civilization is around here. The area used to be much more populated and a lot more hustle and bustle going on.
I used to think that this was all like how it had been for the longest time. In reality, they've been populated areas. There have been houses and barns and things that just turned back into the woods. So
yeah,
it's interesting to see, good and bad.
We've heard stories and seen pictures. We aren't originally from the area, so there's like a lot of stuff we don't know if we were to have lived here all our lives. But apparently in like the 1970s, on this road that we live on, actually, there was a whole stretch of farmhouses that were pretty close together. And all at once, people from downstate were coming up here and buying the property up and actually started burning the houses down just because they didn't want them or need them. We have some neighbors nearby that have sort of seen the progression and the change of this area, and from being somewhere where it was sort of a destination for people to go to where it's a lot more rural and on the periphery of things.
Right. I work on this farm, which is my grandparents' farm, and they moved up about a little over 10 years ago, and they just have a hobby farm, but they do beef cows and a lot of hay. The barn was falling apart. We thought like it might need to be torn down. Had some local Amish people come work on it. A couple different contractors worked on it, but it's back in good standing. The hay fields, they eventually slowly took one by one back and started doing their own hay. So it's been interesting to learn how to do that. And I also work on a dairy farm nearby. But most of the farmers in the area do cattle of some sort, either beef or dairy, corn, some tobacco, soybeans, things like that.
Sorghum. It's been interesting. It's been mostly like land management that we've been involved in. There's obviously been animal husbandry type stuff that we've been doing and crop production and stuff like that, but a lot of it's just been land management for the most part. I went to school for political science and history. I'm still interested in both of those subjects. I just started to realize like I didn't want to do work like that. I wanted to work with my hands, and I just found that I really loved the tangibility of it, that there was like I could see the results of my work. They were right there in front of me. I always had sort of wanted to be someone who was able to do the things associated with manual labor. And so I've been able to learn how to run a chainsaw and like fell trees and run machinery and stuff that I would have never had the opportunity to do had I not ever moved up here and worked on this farm. I have also been able to pursue my dreams like cooking and working in a kitchen. Being on a beef farm definitely helps, like having access to to good quality meat and stuff like that. So
My parents had a farm in Armstrong County, Pennsylvania. We had chickens and ducks and a bunch of woods, and I knew that I wanted to do something where I could work with stuff like that, whether it's building or just problem solving in general. I went to business school because I couldn't find a reasonable job in agriculture. I didn't know about a lot of the jobs that were available. So I just decided I would make money and then eventually buy myself my hobbies or whatever I wanted to do. But after coming up here and working, I really realized that there were a lot of opportunities that I could start now and not have to just make a bunch of money to get what I wanted to do. I could have the lifestyle and work now and save up and be able to have my own farm eventually. But I always really liked animals, and as a kid I grew up right next to a beef farm. I went up and volunteered and helped my neighbor a lot. Old Farmer Bill, he's an awesome guy. Taught me how to do hay and how to bottle feed baby calves and told me about his rotational grazing and things like that. So that really, like, I attribute to him a lot of my thoughts on doing things differently, because he was already doing things a little bit differently for his time, and we really fell in love with the idea of permaculture and the tenets of that, and finding plants to plant that thrive in your native area and are native to the area. Strawberries and rhubarb and elderberries all grow really well around here, and they're all perennial plants, which means they come back every year. First couple of years we didn't get anything from it, but this year has been a really nice year for them. In the meantime, while those were growing, we have had some annual crops of like popcorn and peppers and things, all kind of regular garden vegetables. They've been more just for us, but hopefully we're going to be selling elderberry syrup and things like that in the future. Our goats, they've been an adventure so far. They're pretty fun little creatures. My grandparents had a couple boar goats on the farm when we first started working here, and one of them had twins, and we got to watch them be born and play with them as really little goats. And a few years later, after we had sold those, we decided to get our own goats, and we got Kiko goats, which are from New Zealand. I looked into that because they're supposed to be more pest resistant and durable in general. We started our herd of Kiko goats, and I'm currently using them to do some custom grazing on our property for now, but I would like to expand in the future, which is just where we move them with mobile solar-powered electric fencing to different spots. The really cool thing about the goats grazing is that you can put them on a patch of stuff that you couldn't really take down with the brush hog or weed whacker. they will eat through it all. And we've noticed, like on our own hillside, we've put them on there. They eat through all of the thick, undesirable stuff. After 2 weeks, the grass that they were just on, all of the goldenrod and things like that have been trampled down or eaten. Good grass grows up underneath. My goal, I would love to go to farmers and offer them the opportunity to have the goats on their land instead of having to till up pastures and grow back the grass that's good for cow grazing and horses and things like that.
I come from North Carolina, so the seasons here are very different. Very, very different. It's a very cold climate, 7 months of the year. The first thing that usually pops up are wild ramps or leeks, and they grow across the road. So we'll go and pick those, and they're medicinal in a lot of ways. Like, they're rich in nutrients that it makes sense why they would be the first thing to pop up after a really long winter where you've been inside and just kind of ready to see something green like that. We have our rhubarb and strawberries start popping up around late May, early June. By July, late July, those are usually done. Around this time of year, so like August, September, if we grew annuals that year, then we're able to harvest annuals, and also like our perennials, which would be our elderberries, our grapes, apples, pears. Once fall really starts to come in, that's when a lot of it's preserving. We're preserving all the stuff that we've had the pleasure of harvesting that year. And then we're also able to like move into maple season. So we're tapping maple trees, boiling sat down to syrup. Then we go into winter, which is usually we're prepping before that, obviously, with firewood. Then it's just keeping our wood stove going all winter and heating the house up. And around here, jobs usually dry up pretty bad during the winter. And so it's just kind of hunkering down and making do with what we got and getting through it.
Yep.
Waiting for spring.
There's a few things like the apples and the pears that we can cure and keep like in storage, and then in winter take them and turn them into like applesauce and things like that. It is nice, like after working out in the heat and being outside all the time, it is nice to have like a peaceful month where you're just sitting by the fire and like a couple months, yeah. Like often have to do a lot of firewood even when it's kind of cold out sometimes. But part of that is because you have to wait for the leaves to not be on the trees if you want less of a mess. And then in the springtime we do maple again. The seasons aren't really super predictable. Like right now we're getting an early frost that we weren't prepared for. Mm-hmm. And a couple of weeks ago we got a really bad flood, which is actually the second really bad flood that we've had since living up here. But this one was much worse. We lost a car in the first one, which wasn't even on our property, but it was just getting fixed at the shop.
It was at the shop.
Yeah. So, but in this one we got really lucky. We're very grateful that our property was all right. But we actually went out to breakfast during the flash flood because we thought there's no way it was going to be as bad as the last one that happened, and we were wrong. We got like stuck on a mountain after we left because we just had to wait it out. But a lot of the town unfortunately got really wrecked with that flood. And
the seasons are predictable in some ways, and then you have things that just will happen that no one can really account for. And there were farmers that lost their entire life's work, and all of their livestock was washed away, and you could never really like have an expense report for ahead of time or whatever, like right. Knowing like what you need to have ready. It didn't really matter what people had ready.
The dairy that I work at, they have cattle all through the valley. One of them, they got washed down the road. Some of them, unfortunately, got buried just from the floodwaters and the mud and trees and things. But there was a pasture full of really young cows, and they got washed down the road, and one of the sons of the owners got to them and pulled them up on this little hill and just sat there with them for like 12 hours. And they all hung out together on this dry little area. They actually had to swim to him. He called for them, And they all swam, and then they all kind of passed out super tired with him. But what the crazier story is that the neighboring farm right next to that group of cows had a bunch of sheep. And it was an older gentleman who couldn't really do much, and he just watched his sheep get washed away, and he thought he had lost them all. 24 hours later, he went out and they had just all walked back. Every single one of them had walked back and put themselves away at his barn.
We have a good friend, and they don't have a whole lot of animals. They have some chickens and ducks and stuff like that. But her barn got totally flooded, and she was standing in her yard, and all of a sudden she just started seeing like cows and like a donkey swam up to her, and she had to pull it out of the water, and had the farmer come up to her that owned the donkey, and I think that was the only animal of his that survived.
Yeah, he cried when he got it back because
That was it.
that was it. That was it.
And his whole life's work was just gone, washed away. So I think, like, economically speaking, farmers are facing a whole lot as is. But when you add in just a natural disaster that could happen every year, honestly, like this flooding's pretty
Right.
common up here. I think we saw a report that like $1.7 billion in damage had been done just
And
in
just
terms
our
of
county,
public,
yeah.
just our county, public property, private property. It's insane. And there's really not much that any entity, like private or federal or government, is ever going to be able to do about that. So people are just going to have to go along with it and do what they can.
And it's been really cool to see the community come together through it. And a lot of these roads that got completely washed out, there was only so much that PennDOT or whatnot could do about it. And a lot of farmers had used their tractors to move debris out of the roads and pull cars out and give people rides to where they needed to go.
When did they actually put those windmills in?
It would have been 2018. Obama was the president that started that was the presidency that it was started under.
Mhm.
But then it took a while. Like they literally had to rebuild the roads just to get the
Right.
propellers here and stuff. So
And we saw a bunch of them get like shipped in and built. They've been continuously building more since we've lived here.
I think there's like 33 on that mountain. And then there's like 13 or 15, I think, up in New York, right above us. Like in that little area right there. When they decided to put the windmills in, they just had to like clear cut the whole mountain, basically, the whole top of it. So trees gone. And now it's like a dirt lot. It's like a clay dirt
Yeah.
lot at the top of it. And it's a beautiful view. You can see forever, and it's really nice to go up there. It's just like looking around and you see all this natural beauty below you. And then right behind you are these monstrous windmills that are just causing really unintended consequences. Like,
Right. The cost of building the roads and shipping the propellers and shipping the just all the parts that go along with it. They had to build roads and widen roads a couple feet just to get the propellers up there. But by the law, they have to then return the roads to the original size, replant any trees that they tore up. And it doesn't really work like that. Like that's a really great try, but there's a limit to the amount of years that they can run. Was it 50 years?
yeah.
And you have to disassemble them at that point because they're a liability afterwards. That's just their expiration date, and it's been known since the beginning that there's no way that they're going to recoup the cost of it. Like it takes fuel to get propellers up the side of a mountain and to tear it up and plant and move stone and all that stuff. So all the fuel and energy that was used in putting them up is not a calculated amount that they can produce in the 50 years before they have to tear them down.
I think I even heard that they had to ship the tallest crane in the world
From South Africa.
South Africa on a cargo ship that burns fossil fuel to get here, and then had to ship it back to South Africa just so that they could assemble these windmills. And there were all sorts of projects that had to use fossil fuels in order for the windmills to be built. And really what it seems like is it was just a big developing company that saw their check, their paycheck out of the whole
Right.
situation, and an energy company that isn't really concerned with making more money because, again, I don't really know like how exactly it all works, but it just seemed like here's an area where not many people live, where it's kind of out of people's purview for the most part, and there's not really a population or a political movement that could really stop us from doing it. So we'll do it out in the middle of nowhere, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it did feel like just an appeasement project. Like it was just done. Look what we can do that isn't, coal or
Right.
oil.
It's a
When
great,
coal and oil was involved entirely in the
Right.
production of the windmills.
if you isolate that statistic, you can make it look really good on paper. You can say however much they produce in clean energy and whatnot.
Right.
But the greater picture is that there's energy that is needed to produce those that was not necessarily as clean.
And it'd be one thing if it was gonna help out the area, like if it was gonna create more jobs or like
Right.
help with, I don't know, with people's energy bills around here. People who are struggling now maybe have like subsidized energy
Right.
because of the windmills, but no one is seeing like any of the.
Right. It was all
It's just
outside
an
crews.
eyesore at
Yeah.
this point. Like the locals here can't stand them.
And I don't think the locals weren't really hired to build them either. It was their own crews. They're specialized for that, and honestly, it's actually negatively affected the people in the area. The trees along the tops of the mountains where they are losing their leaves entirely. Falling down. A lot of them. A lot of Right. A lot of birds species are negatively affected. Their populations are going down because of their habitats being gone. But I've heard a few people who've lived here a while talking about how the weather's been different since the windmills have been put up. And I mean, I'm not an expert in that, but it does seem like a lot has changed since they've been put up. A lot, the tree
Yeah.
barrier isn't there. They are producing a lot of wind
Yeah,
in one singular direction. So
33 windmills going at 220 miles per hour. It feels like that could definitely have an effect on the weather in our area.
right,
For sure.
So we're not huge on the windmills.
right. It's controversial.
Like regenerative farming was something on the website.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like something that's becoming more and more popular.
Yeah.
It's an interesting topic. I'm taking an apprenticeship with a local farm, the Painterland Farm. I'll just plug them. They're awesome. The Painterland sisters have made a really cool skyr yogurt, and it's cool to work with them. And I was talking to them about regenerative because they also are in a lot of ways a very regenerative farm and have a lot of really cool forward-thinking practices that help their animals, then the environment, and overall their product to just be better. We're just kind of talking about how that is an interesting word right now, like the term organic has been in the past. It is now a more calculable term because a lot of larger companies have made rules about what qualifies as organic. But right now there's nothing really that makes a company qualify for a regenerative anything. It's just kind of a term that anyone can use. But we want to be focused on giving back to the land and making the land better in general. One of my favorite quotes that I've read lately, and I terribly cannot remember who it was by, but a cow's job is to turn grass into a basically solar powered form of protein. Her other job is to improve the soil and the landscape around her. doing as low of inputs and impacts to the land through the stuff that we take away.
It's about like a positive impact on
Right,
that.
exactly.
So if you have farm animals, then you aren't just taking from the land so that you
Right.
can produce farm, whether it's dairy or meat, or if it's crops, your crops. It's whatever you're taking from the land, you're putting back into it, if not to make equal, but more so. Like the positive impact would mean that you're actually putting more into it than you're taking out of it. Forget the exact number, but like the biomass and like the soil right now is the less than like 1%. We've been taking and taking and taking, and no one is putting back into it. So regenerative farming is this concept that if you're going to farm, all of your inputs aren't just for your own selfish gain. You'll hear a lot of people say in like the permaculture circle, like, don't think about what you're doing for tomorrow, think about what you're doing for 150 years from now. Like what you do has consequences. It could be negative or positive.
Right.
That you aren't taking someone else's livelihood or the world's very own livelihood from itself, I guess.
Right. And it's in the short term, there are a lot of things that you can do to make your crops grow faster. Or speaking of soil, there are a lot of plots that we have to drive through in this area and in upstate New York that are, you look at the ground and the soil is turned white. It looks a little bit sandy. The plants are really far spaced from each other. There's not a lot of ground cover at all. And at first when I didn't know much about this, I honestly thought maybe there were farmers dumping sand to grow some kind of crop. But I'm realizing they've just grown corn in the same field over and over and over again.
Stripped it.
And then stripped it all and tilling over and over again and planting the same things.
Yeah.
It all just tears up the microbiome of the ground, all the things that transfer water and nutrients to each other, that when you till a lot gets broken up and dried up and dies. And when you don't have any vegetation that goes back into the ground after you harvest it, then there's going to be no new nutrients in that soil.
Right.
So through rotational grazing and rotational planting as well, and cover cropping, and not allowing the soil to just sit there in the sun, open and barren like that. And in the long run, it's my belief that can make a farmer more profitable and actually be able to be self-reliant, because a lot of it is a big misconception in the farming and agriculture world that all farms are profitable. And that isn't true. A lot of farms and a lot of farmers that I know have to have off the farm income in order to supplement the things that go on the farm. And if a business isn't in and of itself profitable, then it isn't really a business, it is a hobby. And a lot of these farms are multi-million-dollar hobbies that at the end of the year, you're having to pay into it in order to cover all of your expenses. And that's not fun. Like, it's
Sustainable.
it's not sustainable. And a lot of those people get into a position like that from the first couple of years having great corn crops and great crops and great hay crops and whatnot. And then after a couple of years, they've depleted the soil and they can't make as much money doing that. So they have to throw a bunch of nitrogen or whatever else onto the soil. And sometimes that, just like we were talking about the seasons not being predictable, if you don't get the right conditions after you put that on there, sometimes it goes right into the atmosphere and it's gone. You might as well have burned your money. And that's a shame too. But a lot of the times whenever you can use animals and forethought and planning for these things, and I'm not saying that other farmers are not using forethought. They definitely are, and they're working hard and trying the best within their framework to do the best that they can. But the framework in general is a kind of broken, and we need to go back to a more like natural cycle, closer to what actually happens in a small ecosystem rather than what we want the land to be doing for us.
Meek Meadows was, I don't know, we had really been wanting to use the materials that were so available to us to start some sort of business. And the model and like the focus has sort of changed over the last 3 years. There's so much cool stuff around here, not just the materials, but also the inspiration. Like, there's so much to inspire us. There's so many people that are like kind of jumping onto the natural, not bandwagon, but it's a movement at this point. The focus was definitely like the art, like wooden carved stuff, and we want to be involved in more of like a community of sorts. We want to make like the preserves and go to farmers markets and sort of engage with people that way.
Right.
Like,
When we started, it was right after COVID, so there were far less opportunities for farmers markets at that time and stuff like that. And we weren't sure exactly how to make our like stuff. First of all, when we planted our perennials, it takes a couple years for them to produce. So we didn't really have any of the berries or anything like that to start making food from. And also it was kind of difficult to decide how to properly make food products and sell them online. And now we'll be able to be making them in a USDA inspected kitchen and selling them wherever because Harrison works in a kitchen. I've always loved painting and art, and just coming up here, the summers are just so insanely green and beautiful, and that, like, it inspired me to do a lot of art from around here. There's a lot of foraging art that we've done, creating just what we wanted and what we loved. Social media has affected that in a way. It's kind of given us some direction on what people want and things like that. Obviously, we've had some really like off the wall stuff that we're like, yeah, that's not really worth pursuing. That's not for us. But there's also been a lot that's been just helping us hone down on what we want to put our time and energy into. And that's been really cool because it's been a lot of like Americana, like, but with the art. Like, I've been wanting to do a lot more telling a story of just this perspective that other people don't get or see. I grew up in Pennsylvania, so the classic red barn with the greenery behind it is just, that's just farm views for me. But a lot of people don't get to see the rolling hills and this kind of beauty. So I like feel good about drawing it or painting it, and it feels good when someone from California or Texas wants to buy a maple whatever or like a PA looking barn. It's really interesting. And Harrison worked for a guy who cut down a lot of trees for a year, and we had access to all kinds of different kinds of wood and a friend who had a mill.
the way I even started carving was, it was one winter, and we had like a piece of cherry wood, and I was about to put it in the fire, and I was like, this is so pretty. Like, I can't burn this. Like, I want to just create something with this. And I think the first thing I ever carved was like a spoon,
Yeah.
like a weird looking spoon. It just, like, there's something about like the hardwoods available up here that I just thought it was so cool that they're just growing everywhere, and some of them are already on the ground. I don't even have to cut them down and feel bad about that. Like, and then what you would just see when you would start opening the wood up and seeing like what the grain looks like, and it just was so cool to me because I hadn't really ever done anything like that, where I had created something from like a raw material and then could create something that was like, in my opinion, elegant and like so beautiful and simple at the same time. I mean, I see some people out there making wood carved stuff that their work is just incredible. Like, it was difficult, a little bit. I don't know, made me feel like I wasn't so good at it. But at the same time, I realized like not a lot of people are able to go and cut the tree down that they end up turning into a spoon, or like going in the woods and like working on the same tree that's going to end up becoming a tabletop. A lot of people buy their wood from other people, or like
Other
from
countries,
other
yeah.
countries, and I was like working with wood that some people wish they had access to, like, and I was just like, this is in my yard, basically. Like, I
Right.
get to carve stuff that people buy online and then they work on it or whatever. So I don't know. It's just been interesting. Like, we have cutting boards that are made of black walnut that's 100 years old, and we got to be a part of the process of taking it down and cutting it apart and milling it and stuff like that. So
It was gonna get thrown away or burned out in a big pile out in the field. So it's cool. Like it's like the turning trash into treasure type thing of something that was gonna get thrown away or burned because it just wasn't super valuable at all, being turned into something really cool and like a timeless piece in a lot of ways. Because
really cool to gift that kind of stuff to people, and maybe they don't find it as cool as me, possibly, but just to know like a part of nature and history is like in their hands in a way.
and the selling of stuff started really because we like got up here, we're pretty broke, and we would just make family and friends the like gifts for Christmas and birthdays and stuff, and they liked it, and they were asking for more, and we would make them more, and then they were like, well, I want some for my friends, and we started selling it to them, and then we decided why not make a website and make an Etsy, and I love it, and it is cool to be able to sell it on like every once in a while there'll just be some random person on Etsy that'll find something, and it's always cool. It's exciting.
And we've had like spontaneous interactions with people where
Oh yeah.
it was just
Yeah.
like they kind of found us on social media.
Yeah.
But to be honest, like we haven't really had a whole lot of success with using social media as like
Right.
a
I-
business tool, but it has been really cool to connect with people that we would have never met or not met, but interacted with otherwise, because the algorithm sort of sent them our way. They were like, oh,
Right.
you're interested in homesteading and like natural living. Like, these people in Pennsylvania are doing that. And now we're interacting with people in the UK or in Montana
Exactly.
or Texas or Arizona, and people that don't even really know us, but they follow what we're doing, and they're sort of following the seasons. Like,
Right. And that's a great like way to put it, because the mercantile part of it is much less to make money and much more to be connected with the people who want to be a part of what we're doing. And that's how it started, and how it's really like we've found how it's really the most valuable. And the social media has taken a turn towards more of just brand in and of itself that you're buying into. You're not buying like the fanciest cutting board in the world, but
definitely not.
right, like, but it's not super expensive. It's a block of 100-year-old walnut, and you will not find another one like it in existence. So just a cool thing. That's why we do it, because it's fun.
In terms of like the carving, whenever I would try and take a piece of wood that like the grain or the shape of it just wasn't going to work for what I wanted to make it into, and a lot of times it failed utterly. And what I realized is I had to work with the materials I had. Don't try and make it into what you really want it to be. Like, look at the material and like say, what can I make this into? Because a lot of times I would see something and just be like, oh, that'd be such a cool spoon. And then trying to make it into a spoon, and it's just not going to work. But like realizing like, you see the pieces of wood on a tree or a branch or whatever, and it's got like a elbow on it or whatever,
Right.
and realizing like you don't have to fight so hard against it. You can just turn it into a really cool tobacco pipe.
Right.
So that's kind of, I guess, our principle on a lot of things now. It's like,
Exactly.
don't work against it, work with it. Like, it's
With the land
the
and
materials that you
animals.
have. Like,
Yeah.
with your own abilities, to be honest.
Exactly.
Like, like we said, we're neither of us are like out here saying that we're like experts on any of the stuff
Right.
that we're going after, but just realizing like if you can see what it needs or what it wants or whatever, that you can work with it and actually make something really beautiful out of it. It's just
Right.
I think that especially in American culture, we're spending so much time just like trying to force things a lot, and it just doesn't work like that. Nature doesn't work like that.
Right. And like we've tried it. We've tried forcing a lot, like, and it works a lot better whenever you try and do everything. Like you take the time to look at how to more naturally do it. I mean, that kind of started with like, even splitting firewood up. Like
Yeah.
look at the piece of firewood and decide where you want to hit it instead of just trying to hit it over and over again. Because
And like I came from North Carolina, so like okra is really big down there. And I was like, man, I miss okra so bad. And we tried to grow okra like 3 years in a row, and it never worked. Like things like that just you like the reason why we're focusing on the perennials is because of the weather that we have up here, and they're what works. So
right.
it's just living with the seasons, living with nature, and not fighting so hard against
Right.
it.
Instead of every year trying to grow okra and tomatoes and peppers, which
Right.
we need a lot like longer and hotter days than we get. We are better off growing things that poke through the ground while there's still snow and start growing then. And there's a lot that can be grown in that, like asparagus and all kind of other. We've already mentioned, but
I mean, I definitely am more of like what would be considered like a primitivist when it comes to like my beliefs on tools and machines. I think
I love tractors. I love machinery, but I don't think that it's necessarily good for the earth. I think it's super cool. I love using it, but I try to kind of cut myself off and can like rein it in.
I obviously like I think that machinery and tools have their place, especially in agriculture. Like I cannot imagine baling our hay fields
Right.
by hand or using like I don't know, more primitive forms
Right.
of balers.
We get to see the Amish do a lot of that, and it looks very difficult.
So it is nice to hop in like a 100 horsepower AC enclosed tractor and throw the baler on and start baling 800-pound round bales like nothing. And that's all great and good. But I definitely think that for a lot of functions on the farm, if you think about it a good bit, there's a lot of other options. Obviously, we use a lot of machinery around here. I'm a big fan of chainsaws, as much as I don't love machines and as much as I don't love cutting trees down, to be honest. But I can't imagine processing firewood without a chainsaw, and
And
I
it's
don't use a splitter though.
no.
I split firewood by hand for the most part, so I could say at least I don't use a splitter, even though they're not that big of a deal. But anyway,
We've been trying like for our firewood. Obviously, the ash borer in Pennsylvania is a huge problem, and it is across the East Coast and probably elsewhere. But they've been just destroying the ash tree population, and ash wood is a fantastic firewood. So our goal has been to only cut down the ash borer dead ash trees, and we have more than enough on our property and surrounding. Like we have some friends who just had a bunch of them fall over in their driveway, so we went over and helped them cut it up, and we got to take some firewood home. And so are as low of an impact as we can. If we have to use tools, if like heavy machinery, power tools and whatnot, we try and do it in a way that is the like best for the environment. And a lot of times getting the ash trees that are infested with ash borers out of the woods is one good way to have a positive impact. Throughout the winter, like last winter, we were entirely wood stove heated in the entire house. We have electric baseboard heating, but we don't use it. It's really expensive. It's actually kind of a fire hazard. Yeah, it is inefficient, and we love having the fireplace too. So my most used tools are my impact drill, which I can do a ton of stuff with. Electric net fencing and a solar powered battery that charges the electric net fence. I use that every 2 weeks. And a weed whacker. I use a weed whacker a lot. A lot of a lot of things get done with the weed
Yeah,
whacker.
and we're learning like what you could do with like a brush hog. We're learning we can use our goats
Yes,
to do
yeah.
basically the same thing, and people use actual hogs. Like that's where the name came from for them, is pigs like will tear up an area pretty well.
Right.
So
They'll uproot things and get rid of stuff that you don't want.
we're still like relatively new to a lot of this stuff. Whether we've been doing it here and there, like practice wise in our lives, but you see, I find it as inspiration. Like I'll see like a problem that we have, and then sometimes you'll see how another farmer is, or and more specific, like a regenerative farmer is tackling that problem. So Whippoorwill Farms in South Carolina had bought a 40-acre property that was entirely wooded, entirely overgrown, nowhere that wasn't just thick as all get out with whatever vegetation they had an issue with. And instead of going and either buying or renting all the machinery that could take care of that problem, they decided that they would just take the time to let their animals sort of take care of the problem. So they have like 4,000 chickens that they raise every year, and they don't coop them. They don't have a coop for any of them. They just let them free range in the forest. And then they have hogs and all of this is rotated from one paddock or area to another. And it's all designed so that basically they're clearing what they don't want and they're fertilizing what they need fertilized. I think we're trying to we want to be at that point. We're not there yet. We don't even have our own property yet, but we know where we want to be. And it's kind of nice because we kind of get this time to be testing things out. Like we've tested some different systems out with different things, and some of it's not worked, and some of it we've been like, okay. I mean, like honestly, the goats have been a
Right.
huge eye opener with just like what they can do in a very little amount of time. All we have to do to get where we really want to get to is just keep building. It's just a matter of every day waking up, knowing what our goal is and doing what we can to get to that point. And we're not a profitable farm at this point. It's I think social media, it can definitely feel like you're not at all where you want to be. And it feels like other people are so much further ahead than you, and it can kind of get you down. But to be honest, with a lot of it is just that's really cool that someone's out there doing what I maybe something I didn't even think of, or something that I thought was a good idea, and other people are saying, oh, you couldn't do that or something like that. But you see people going out there doing really cool and imaginative things in order to attain the agricultural goal that they have in mind. And it's not just agricultural goals, it's a lifestyle goal as well. Like our goal is to not have to work for another business other than our own. We're not there yet. We're both having to work jobs outside of our own business, but we know we can get there if we just
Right.
it's a matter of growing and building off of what we already have. So
And a lot of it, if you don't pay for your education, you're gonna pay for your education in a way. Neither of us went to school for this, and a lot of this is a huge learning experience. A lot of we volunteered hours helping out other farmers just to learn this kind of stuff, and it's been a lot of on the job experience, as much as we can. For me personally, my philosophy has always just been I think that the healthiest and best way to live life is as close to the way God made it, is what most people around here say. I really tried to look into what does that really mean? What is as close to the way things are naturally? And certain ideas that we've had have come and gone. There's just certain things we can't do. have a mushroom farm. I would love to grow all my own like oyster mushrooms and stuff like that, but that would take us down a whole nother rabbit hole.
Right.
Like hydroponics, I've looked into doing that.
Houses.
Greenhouses and all of those are really cool and great.
And if you're out there doing that,
That's awesome. But like for us, that wasn't gonna fit into like we wanted something a little bit more self-sustaining. We wanted to originally have not a profitable farm, but to have a homestead that we could completely subsist off of. But in today's age, like you have to make a certain amount of money to buy a certain amount of things that keep you connected with society. And in order to do that, we realized we either had to have off-farm jobs forever or have a profitable farm. Someday we would love to have animals that we raise in this holistic manner that we can then process and cook in a holistic manner and give people like the full experience of something that we just think is an elevated product and a better experience to have. We're learning from people who do that and have really cool things going on, and that's our goal for eventually.
living a self-sufficient life is a very isolating thing. Live in an area that probably is not going to lend a hand to a very social life too. And I think we realized like the self-sufficiency, though very alluring, we weren't going to be able to live the life that we actually wanted to live if that's what our main goal was. Like, do we really want to live on top of a mountain out in the middle of nowhere,
Only
like
sustaining
Alaska
ourselves,
like Colorado or something, where our only concern for the day is like getting enough water, enough shelter, enough food to just survive? In some ways that is like closest to nature as possible, but at the same time, like we're social creatures, like we wish to share this with other people. And I think that we realize like the totally self-sufficient life is not exactly the life that we wanted to live. Like it was
Right.
more of like,
We want other people to be able to enjoy this, like the benefits that come from this. Not that everyone needs to go live on a farm at all. Maybe everyone should have a little taste of what it is like to do something for yourself, whether that is carving something useful out of a block of wood, or planting an herb garden, or going and feeding some chickens your vegetable scraps, or even composting. Like there's a lot of ways that helps people build skills, and also just like we learned a lot about life through just trying to be in charge of our own living instead of going and working and then buying it. Because again, COVID was a great teacher with that. That you might think that you have a community because you can go to the store and always get this or that and always have people that take care of you in a certain way. But when you're no longer making that income, how much of a community do you have left over? Like
nature is a cycle of give and take. What we can see as good and what we can see as, man, this is a struggle. This is not great. I'm not enjoying this. And realizing like you're only so capable in a lot of ways. Like I wouldn't be doing this period if it wasn't for a team effort. Like I
Right.
wouldn't, first of all, I would have never lived up here. Like the whole, to be honest, like when her grandpa called and was like, do you want to work on the farm the summer after you get married? I was like, that doesn't seem like a good idea.
I actually sent him a picture of this house when we were dating, and I was like, "Do you want to live here someday with me?" Just jokingly, and he was like, "No way!" Like that does not sound like fun.
Right.
But then we ended up living here, and it ended up being really awesome.
But there have definitely been moments where we have experienced some loss for sure with this. And it could go either way. It's really easy to get washed up in like all of the amazing aspects of it and to sort of forget the moments where we were sitting there crying about something that had occurred or
Right.
something that wasn't making any sense. Or I mean, like, we've seen a lot of loss, like life loss on this farm, not human life loss, thankfully, but I mean, honestly, we did in the area
In the
though.
area, yeah.
COVID was rough. This is a very elderly area, and we lost some people we were pretty close with from COVID, and had to watch a couple people we were really good friends with die, and that was really tough. And so there was that, but then it was also like losing animals that you can't help but start like planning these things around these things that you're so hopeful for. And or a garden, you're so hopeful for a fruitful garden, and then you didn't realize that, oh, I was going to need to work my butt off at a job that was going to drain me completely, and that by the time I got home I had no energy. And so my priorities that I really wanted to focus on ended up not being the priorities that they should have been. And so we've had gardens fail, and we've had animals that died, and we had things that, because we're newer to this in a lot of ways, there were signs of things that bad things were going to come. In calving season, there was one night we woke up in the middle of the night and we heard one of the cows giving birth, and we just thought, like, it's all good. Like, what's really the big issue? We'll just go back to sleep. And when we woke up, the calf was buried in mud, and the mother had neglected it. And you can't help but feel like, man, if I had just woken
Those
up
couple hours
and
could have
put
made
my
a
boots
difference.
on and gone outside, maybe that calf would still be alive. Or if I had noticed, like, oh, that goat is acting a little strange today, I should really like do whatever it takes to get it back. But you're just thinking, oh, it's just like, it's a goat. Like, it acts weird sometimes. And then the
Right.
next day you go into the pasture and it's passed away. And it's like, there are some brutal moments that, if it weren't for Kylie and our want to do this together, like, I probably would have quit most everything I've really put myself towards, to be honest, because it just, you really can't help but ask yourself, why am I doing this? What is the point of this, when you're not really seeing what the world deems as like something that's what makes it worth it. Like, money is what makes things worth it. We're not really seeing much money at all from most any of these endeavors that we're going after yet. We do sell stuff from our website and have sold stuff all over the country, but it's not like, it's obviously not enough for us to like live off of. And I think that that's hard too, when the world kind of is like, why are you doing that if it's not making you a living? Like, what's the point of that? Is how a lot of people may not actually outright say that, but that's kind of how you're made to feel, especially when like we go visit family and they're like asking us like what we're up to and stuff like that. And you just, sometimes you're like sitting there like, "Ah, this is like some goofy thing that I'm going after, that it's not worth it or whatever." But then you have moments where it's so clear to me that it is, but
Right.
but then there's also obviously the moments where it's really hard. This is, like, I won't lie, like, waking up at 5 in the morning when it's below zero, and having to go out and split firewood so I can start a fire is not always like super appealing. But like, our house is, sometimes we've woken up and it has been 40 degrees in our house before because the fire died in the middle of the night.
It's hard not to get stuck in the romanticization of it and being like, oh well, like life is so great. We have a fire every night and whatnot, because it's obviously not that way. But at the same time, it's hard not to get stuck in the, like, we have to make a fire every day because we can't afford heat or what. Like, you can really get yourself stuck in either direction very easily.
It's definitely
It's a mental game, and yeah. And a lot of it too is like what you're saying with family and stuff, is like a lot of the world is so disconnected from this kind of lifestyle, that it does sometimes when you go into these situations where you're in the suburbs and like gone to the grocery store at least 4 times today and we're about to go again. And you think like, why, like, what do I grow herbs for when we've bought different herbs for every meal that we've had today, and
Yeah,
it's totally like, why would any of these people grow an herb garden? It's so frustrating. Like, and you can only collect them certain times of the year, and like when you can just go to the store and get them. But then we have to remember that like that is not necessarily a sustainable thing that exists in and of itself. Like grocery stores that have fresh produce all year round are an interesting concept. And
yeah, tomatoes that you can eat in January. Like,
right,
it just doesn't.
it doesn't actually make sense. And personally, like, I think it's good for me to not eat what I want to eat all year round. Like sometimes it is better to eat what's in season and better for my health and better for my just discipline as a person. So I'm obviously not saying everybody in the world needs to do what I do, but that's why I do what I do and why I think it's important.
Yeah. We have different points of view on a lot of this stuff, actually. But over time, the more we discuss this kind of stuff, we end up coming together more in the center, like between the two beliefs. Like, I'm definitely not as much of a quote unquote primitivist as I was before because, we talk about these things, whatever it is. And then eventually it seems like we meet in the middle more. And I think like we are different emotionally, we are different, like the way that our brains work. Like, I'm not as much of a problem solver, I would say, as Kylie. I would say that I'm more like, I can be a little bit more emotionally charged with things, and Kylie's more like logical on things. And so neither are inherently wrong approaches, but I think that we've sort of learned from each other the other person's perspective at moments where like we'll be like, okay, I see what they're talking about here. Like, I get where are you coming from?
That helps with like how like I view other people in general too. Like from things that I've been like, wow, this person that I love more than anyone in the world, I am like really disagreeing with right now. So that means that other people that I disagree with aren't my enemy. It's just that we gotta get through it. But yeah, in a lot of ways, we don't follow traditional gender roles in any way. Like before this, I was out weed whacking, and Harrison baked bread for this, and like I would much rather be outside
And
weed
we were
whacking.
joking. We were like, isn't it funny that you're about to go weed whack and I'm gonna be inside baking bread? It's like,
And
as the man of the house, like,
yeah, and everybody asks him about
oh
like the
yeah.
farm stuff and compliments me on the cooking, and that's not it. I don't I'm like I cooking's fine, but it's not my passion. But
Yeah.
I love being outside, and I don't know, it both of us have our own passions and they're very necessary. And
Yeah, and I guess like going back to us as a couple doing this, like our goals have slightly changed over time because we've realized it felt like our interests and our goals were so separate.
that we would have to
Farm,
pick
job,
one or the other. Like
right, like once we realized like Kylie wants to be like a consultant of sorts in this field and I want to cook, we were like, there's so many farms around here that if we were to approach them as a couple and be like, we've got the business side of things, we've got the agricultural side of things, and then we also have like an opportunity for you to showcase your product through the most powerful communal tool ever in existence, and that's food. Like, so you show people like, here's what we make, here's what we do. There's all these bison farms, and how like bison meat is sort of like trendy right now, and like how cool it would be if Kylie were to be able to help them with some sort of
direct
grazing
marketing.
thing, and
Okay.
then or like planning or something like that for an event, and then me to be like, yeah, well, and then I can cater it with like your bison meat or whatever. But it took time to get to this point where we were comfortable with like, this is our goal as a couple. Like it didn't start out as that. It was more of like, it took time to sort of, again, hone in, like, this is what we really want to do. Because sometimes you think you know what you want to do, and really, if you look at it, it's a lot of like the outside noise and the chatter that kind of influences what you think you want to do. When really it's about what do we want to do. And the more we talked about it and the more we went through a lot of the stuff, we were like,
Right. Like my dream job in the beginning would have been like going and working on a ranch out west, and do I really want to go live exclusively on someone else's property and do exactly what they tell me all the time, and or do I want to build something of my own? And it might not look exactly like a 5,000 acre prairie ranch with like working horses on it all the time, but am I would I get to do what I wanted to do every day there? Probably not. But can I do what I want to do every day? Carving out our own little place here. Oh yes, a lot more. Yes, like
I don't, maybe this is part of like just being a human, but like as of right now, it feels, I feel a lot more confident about like where, I don't know, you can just tell sometimes when people ask you and they're like, so what do you want to do with your life? And you give them an answer and you're sitting there and you're like, I know that isn't true. Like, I know that isn't actually what I want to do. I guess part of that questioning or that like lack of confidence in what we're saying is sometimes like, I'm not doing what it takes for me to even get to that part, like that point.
and it makes that kind of thing makes the in-between jobs more worth it and more educational, whereas like before it was just like whatever I can get paid the most to do, but now it's what can I do that's gonna really set me up for where I want to go, like what can I learn now that's gonna help me in the future. Our first goals were to work on the farm and then move, like to go where like pick a
Cheapest
place.
land we could find, out in
Yeah.
the most secluded place we could find.
Right. I always feel like I'm behind the
I
ball.
always feel like
I feel like I'm too old to be starting this. Like
yeah.
I know that's probably just a misconception because I honestly had the misconception of once I got out of college, like I better be starting my life. Like I went to college, I paid my way through school, so I've got debt to work off, and back to square one of just learning everything new, and in agriculture, and in not just conventional agriculture, because I already had kind of a basis of conventional agriculture that I kind of had to throw away as well, because I had a new philosophy about it, and if I was going to live this life, then it would have to be a different way. So it's been a full new learning curve, and I have to constantly remind myself that I'm only 25.
Yeah.
Like I have time. It's okay.
There are moments where I'm like, we have been educated, attained an education on things that we wanted to learn about.
Yes, definitely.
Like I feel like I know nature so much more now. Like I know the names of plants that I never knew the name of before. I know I can identify trees by the way they look and their leaves. And before, like I swear, I like barely even knew how trees like propagated themselves. And like I thought, like if you stuck like a stem in the ground, like it would just become a tree. Or like I don't even know what I thought, but like there's just so many things now that like I don't know that maybe this isn't like a good marker for like how am I doing, but it's like if the world were to end right now, like how would I be doing? Or, you know, like that's kind of how people a lot of times, especially in like this sort of realm of living, like the homesteading sort of deal, like people are like if the world ended right now, we'd be set because like they have a canning shelf full of canned goods or like skills that would be really helpful to have if the world were to go into that sort of situation. And not that that's what I'm like sitting here putting as like my, if the food supply were to all of a sudden dry up or like whatever, like there we have the knowledge at this point to maybe not live the most amazing lifestyle and eat the most amazing food, but we do have the knowledge to like, we could be self-sufficient if we wanted to. It might be a huge learning experience in of itself and way more than I ever expected. I truly believe that to be true, but like, it wouldn't be such an impossible task at this point. Like, I've done things and I've learned things that my 18-year-old self was not even concerning himself with learning. And my goal at that point was just like, make six figures, man. Like, that's just what I want to do. Like, make six figures. Cause like, what did I even know about the world, and why did I even really think that making six figures would be like enough to be happy and to like get by? It's just like, that's honestly, like, that's just kind of thought, like, that's what you need to do to like, to live the American dream, I guess, is like eventually make six figures.
And the biggest reassurance against that has been meeting so many people who make six figures who are so unhappy.
And that's
Yeah,
like, don't actually.
Right. They don't actually have that money. They're living in kind of a house of cards because everything's leveraged, because there is no end to trying to make yourself feel good if you do it that way. Like, and that there, I mean, there's plenty of people who make six figures that are totally happy, and they make that much money because they enjoy what they're doing and they're really good at it. So it's not about the amount that you make.
Right, it's really not.
It's about like, is that your only goal in life? Because then you're not going to be happy. If
that's a lot of question marks that are still remaining at that point about like.
It's possible for plenty of farmers and like ranchers to be making six figures. Like, you can be really successful. Like, you can definitely do it.
With
like,
that is though that like that's not like my concern now. As much like that was, but just how simplistic.
I'm just on a rabbit trail now about it, but
there's things in life that are worth more than any amount of money.
For sure.
And I really feel like there have been things that we've been blessed to experience and do and learn that no amount of money could have ever really made up for it or been more worth it than that.
And the peace of mind that you have, not again, it's not about the world ending, but just the because I don't want that to happen, but there's the peace of mind of knowing that I don't know, like, being able to do something from scratch is cool. Like baking bread or cooking over a fire or even starting a fire without anything, without lighter fluid or anything. It's not that easy. It's it was a long process to learn like which firewood to cut and how big to cut it, how long it had to sit before you could split it into tiny pieces. And I've spent so many mornings sitting in front of that fireplace trying to light green wood on fire and burning so much cardboard and like store-bought fire bricks just trying to get these stupid twigs to light, when if I would have picked a better log to start with, I could have had that done in 5 minutes. But I just didn't know which one to pick. So the peace of mind of just, you have a problem and then you're able to learn about it and solve it.
Right.
And it makes you feel good at the end of the day because you've mastered that knowledge.
And we've been able to even do like recreational things that we probably wouldn't have done before. Like, we went winter camping up in New Hampshire last April or last March, and we camped in 3 feet of snow.
In the wilderness area.
And we were like miles and miles away from anything. And everyone was like, it was for our anniversary too. And people were like, you guys are nuts.
This was our vacation. It's
like 10 degrees the entire time we camped. It was not like 100% of the time super fun, but it was such a cool experience. It was beautiful. It was the most peaceful camp experience I've ever had.
And it felt good at the end of it. It was such an accomplishment, and
we did things that were like a culmination of all the things that we had been learning, and it felt good to be at that point where in some ways I feel like behind the ball, I guess, in some ways, because there are mile markers that people have, and especially in America for people of our age. And in a lot of ways, I haven't met a lot of those mile markers in some ways. And
like previous goals we've had for ourselves too.
But in some ways, I'm realizing like maybe I didn't know it, but I am where I kind of wanted to be at 25.
Yeah.
Because I had moments where I told my parents, like, I want to live out at like 12 years old.
Yeah.
We visited some family friends in Kentucky, and they lived out in the middle of nowhere, and they could like kind of do whatever they wanted. And I was like, this is what I want to do when I grow up. And my parents were like, no, that's not really what you want to do. And I was like, I guess it's not. But here I am living out in the middle of nowhere, kind of doing whatever I want to do. And like, I like it. Like, it's good. It's not always a run in the park, a ride in the park. It's not always like rainbows and sunshine. But I don't really know how else I would be living my life, to be honest.
There's a lot of jobs I would enjoy a lot less than this. And I spend some days like shin deep in poop, and I still sit there and think I would rather this than a lot of other jobs I've already worked. And so I don't know, it's everybody's personal preference, but
Yeah, for sure. It's where you find comfort. I think privacy and freedom is a great comfort for some
love
people.
that. Yeah. Freedom is a lot of work. It's responsibility. Yeah. That's worth it.
Not used to, like, I don't know. We have friends in the area that we talk with about this stuff, but it's not so much about us, if that makes sense. Like, we're not really sitting there like, it's weird to talk about yourself. I
Yeah.
guess, like, oh, 100%, but
I get a lot of trolls on the internet, and it was just a time lapse of just us, my family, putting hay in the barn. And we've done it that way for years. Then the farmer across the street taught us how to do it. He had done it like that for years. And I had people saying, you're going to burn the barn down if you do it that way.
Saw you, saw me
roll it
stacking
over, it's
hay like
great.
that, he
Yeah.
would have beat me senseless.
I was like, what are you talking about, man? Like, this is how we do it. Like, I'm
It's not your
sure.
hay.
Yeah.
Like, stop worrying about it.
Yeah, but I don't even. He was probably from some other climate where I have no idea. Hay was fine.
In terms of social media, the biggest annoyance is
The experts.
everyone's an expert and everyone's an advocate. You have to really be careful about what information you put out there or what content you put out there regarding your animals. Because there's so many people out there that will, like, literally, if they saw what I had to do just to deworm our goats, like, I had to take a syringe and put it in their mouth and, like, and it's not like a very fun looking process. And if you put that on the internet, people would be like, you're torturing that animal. It's like, it's a goat, dude. Mac, he cribs, which is a vice for horses. I don't know if you've experienced that with your horses at all at the barn, but there's some horses that have high anxiety. It's like they put their front teeth on something and they push air into the back of their throat, and it's like a high. They get like a head high. And he cribs incessantly. Like, we can't get him to stop.
It's common in racehorses because
put a
of the
crib-
high anxiety.
We put a crib collar on his neck a couple nights, and then the one I put it on him, it was too tight, and I had to, while he was like
Bucking and
freaking out,
rearing and
I had to jump on his back and take it off him because it was choking him. And I was like, I'm not putting that on him. Like, that's torturing him, making him not be able to do his vice or whatever. Like, but people are out there like, your horse is dying if they're cribbing, they're dying. Like, this is bad for them. That he could get the treatment from the wood because it's treated wood. It could go into his. It's all this stuff. It's like, dude, be my guest. If you want to really tell me how you think this could be fixed, then go on. But it's like, it's everything, right?
there was a lot of fun. So that was like my favorite one to look through the suggestions of like, someone said that, well, it's an easy fix if you just electrify the top of all of your fences so that everything that he wants to crib on
fencing we have?
gets elected. Like he would
Can you imagine
electrocute himself.
electrifying all of that
Like-
fencing? But this is the problem with like people consuming content that isn't like, that's all it is it's just a little piece of life from anyone and everyone that's putting it out there. But people like will make a whole story, like they think they know everything about, or they've like watched a TikTok and they've heard some fact about something and they're like, oh, you can't do that because I saw a TikTok that said that. But you haven't done anything with that knowledge. Do it better than me.
But show me. Yeah, go.
Actually, go do it.
Show me how easy it is to electrify your top part of your fence. And how to do that for $50, because that's my budget. Or I could have let that horse go to the kill shelter, which is where he was headed. Like, it's not like I bought him from a really wonderful, like, situation and just made his life miserable. I'm actually trying to make his life better, but...
Yeah, there's this weird disconnect with folks that don't have any experience or practice with like livestock animals, especially. I notice.
You're beating that.
Right.
Or you're
You need to take
harming
that chicken
animal.
to the vet. And it's like, I can't, okay?
Dude, on Facebook the other day, I was scrolling and it was like a Facebook page for chicken people that keep chickens. And someone posted that their chicken ate a metal screw and they took it to the vet and it was $3,000. And the guy was like, cheaper than divorce papers, is what he said. That is ridiculous. Like, that is a Tractor Supply chicken that you just spent $3,000 on.
That's gonna get eaten by a raccoon next
That's
week.
literally, they don't live more than like I don't think we've ever had a chicken on this farm for more than 3 years.
No.
Not a single one.
Like, and it's nature that takes them. It is,
Like, chickens
have
and ducks
gotten-
don't last long on
they
farm.
get massacred on a
Or
regular
they just
basis.
die.
But,
Like,
right,
we've
yeah.
had ones that they lived a very healthy life and then one day they wanted to be alone and then they died and it was sad, but that's just how
That's it. That's how it goes.
this world is so crazy. It's so disconnected from like the reality of things, the like harshness of like what is considered brutal is really just like this is just how it is, man. Like, not to say that brutality should be normalized in any way, but just the things that taking your chicken to the vet and not spending $3,000 on it is okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
You're not a bad person if you don't save your $2 chicken from Tractor Supply. The same people who spout about like, oh, that's so cookie cutter. The same people that are out there like hoping that everyone is cookie cutter and doing exactly what they would do. And it's just, I don't know. Just let people be. Take people whole or leave them alone.
Yeah.